Are you setting New Year's resolutions? Have you in years past? How did that work out for you? Did it work okay? Did you like where you got with your resolutions? What if we stopped with the resolutions and we actually made changes in 2020? Happy New Year and welcome to Explore Your Enthusiasm with me, Tara Swiger. This is episode 290, and you can find all of my resources about setting goals and making changes and transforming your life, taraswiger.com/2020 goals. I put a free worksheet there for you and also linked up all of my other New Year podcast episodes. I have been doing New Year podcast episodes for the last 5 years, so there's lots of good stuff to find there. So the problem with resolutions, I'm sure you already know, is that they don't work. Think about it. Have you ever met anyone and had them say, I set that resolution and I met it this year? No. Nobody does that because the way we set resolutions, the way we even word resolutions, doesn't work. Like they're completely unreachable. So a 2018 survey found that 1/3, around 30% of Americans who made New Year's resolutions the year before say they did not stick to the resolutions, and 38% say they stuck to some of their resolutions. But you hear how even the survey itself was worded? Did you stick to your resolutions? What does that mean? Like, how do you know if you stuck to your resolution or not? Because it's completely unmeasurable. Maybe you did it 3/4 of the time. Maybe you did it 1/4 of the time. There's really no way to know with just a phrase, did you stick to it? If we look at the most popular resolutions, you can see that the way they're worded make them very vague, very hard to reach. So the most popular one was exercise more, with 59% of people saying they wanted that one. The next one was eat healthier. There's also save money, lose weight, and reduce stress. Well, if at the end of the year I ask you if you reduced stress, how do you know? I mean, I added 3 toddlers to my life over the course of the year, so I probably didn't reduce that much stress. But in most cases, if this year was like last year, how do you know if you reduced stress or not? These resolutions are impossible to succeed at because they're vague and they're confusing without a starting place. Like, how much are you exercising now? And without a destination. How much is more exercise? What specifically will that mean? How will you know you reach that? You can't really make it happen because you don't know what to do. Like, you wake up January 6th. Like, what are you supposed to do with that resolution? Because there's no starting place and there's no ending place. But the reason we set them each year, the reason some people set them each year, is because we want to make a change. The resolution begins to define what that change will be for us. It gives us a place to aim. It gives us a direction. It gives us the beginning of a shape of the change we want to make, but it doesn't get specific enough. So it's not that resolutions don't work. It's the way that we do them doesn't work. We may think about it on January 1st, maybe even the first Monday in January on the 6th, but then nothing. By March, most people can't even remember their resolution, or they can't even point to something they've done to keep their resolution. Instead, if you really want to make a change in your life, you need to add some steps on to think of vague resolution once. The steps are, you need to define what you want, you need to commit yourself to it, and you need to create a doable plan, and then you have to follow through on that plan. Those are the steps to transforming anything in a year, in a decade, in a week. That is how you're going to transform, change, grow, change the shape of your life, is by following those steps. So let's dig into them a little bit. Number 1, define what you want. Make it measurable. Define where you are now and where you want to go in a way that you can say for sure, like in a court of law, that you have or have not achieved it. Even choosing a word or a feeling, something a little softer than really measurable goals, is going to feel better and be more specific than your typical resolution. Saying, I want to read more versus I want to feel curious about the world. Maybe that's not why you want to read more, but that's one feeling you might get from reading more. And what's awesome is that you could feel curious about the world in a bunch of ways that don't relate to reading. So you could read more, you could go to museums, you could watch documentaries, you could meet new people. If the reason you're saying you want to read more is because you want to be more curious about the world, then start with the feeling and look at all the things you could do to increase that. Because maybe at the end of the year, if you've said you want to read more, you don't really know how to measure that. But if you said you want to feel curious, you can look at a bunch of things you did. Maybe you didn't read that much, but instead you went to museums all over. Maybe you watched a million documentaries. Maybe you met people from all different countries. And that gave you the feeling you wanted to have more than the resolution, I want to read more. So as you are starting to define in your own head what you want this year, ask yourself, how will I know if I've reached it? And be specific about how you want to feel. And then ask yourself, what else could make me feel this way? What could I do that would bring these same feelings about? Maybe it's not what you think. Maybe there's an easier way to get there. Maybe there's other things you need to add that you hadn't even thought about. Let's do a little example here. Many people said they wanted to exercise more. But why? What do you want to feel when you exercise more? There's a bunch of things you might want to feel. You might want to feel thin. You might want to feel healthy. You might want to feel strong. So I like to feel strong, but what makes me feel strong? For me, it's lifting weights. It's being an emotionally steady mom, not flipping my lid every time I feel like it. And it's getting through hard times. It actually reminds me, there's this mug I love that says strong as a foster mother. And that's how I think about feeling strong. So yeah, I could exercise more to feel strong, but I could also acknowledge the ways I'm strong in other parts of my life, and I could get emotionally stronger or spiritually stronger or intellectually stronger, and maybe all lead towards still feeling the way I want to feel with that resolution. The second step, commit yourself to it. You can't do what you don't really decide to do. Now that may sound obvious, but be honest with yourself. How many times have you said, this is my goal, this is my resolution, and then you do nothing towards it because you didn't really believe it was possible and you kind of backpedaled away from it? I was just talking about this with a Starship captain. She set a sales goal and she said, but I'll be honest, my brain keeps saying I can't reach it. So we talked about, and she's working through why she feels it's unreachable, because she can't commit herself to it until she really believes in it. And here's the thing, I know you don't want to fail. I know you don't want to feel like a failure. So you backpedal away from the goals you really want because you're afraid of feeling like a failure. But you're not going to succeed unless you go all in. This is so much of why I think more people don't have the successful business they want, is they want something, they get afraid they can't have it, and so they stop working towards it. And they do that over and over. Oh, I wish I had that. She has that. Meh, I'm comparing myself to this person, but I couldn't really get it. And so they don't really do anything. I know, because I've been there like many times. So I know. And that maybe this is something all new and you've never done it before. You don't have any proof you can do it, but you can. Maybe you've tried it before and you failed, but here's the thing, you're farther along now. You've learned more, you know more. You have tried and you failed and you've survived, so you can do it. And if not now, then doing it now will teach you what you need to know in order to do it in 6 months or in a year. Here's the thing, the year is going to pass anyhow. Are you going to move towards your goal or not? Go all in. You're not going to achieve any goal you don't go all in towards. And you might not achieve the goals you do go all in for, but you're going to get closer to achieving them if you just sit there and hope that they happen one day. Go all in. Step number 3, create a doable plan. The phrase, grow my business, is meaningless. But if you got specific in step 1 and you really defined what that meant, and then maybe you decided you're going to hit a specific sales goal, and then you got real committed in step 2, you're going to hit that sales goal. The next step is to actually get specific about what you're going to do to hit that goal. You have to have a specific goal so you can take specific actions to make it happen. So what do you need to do? And by when do you need to do it? I've got a whole workbook for making plans. It's called Map Your Business. You can find it on Amazon or at tarswiger.com/map. In it, I walk you through getting clear on your big vision, setting a specific goal, and then building a plan for that. And following up every month on how it's going, learning the lessons so that you can move forward quicker. So you know what you need to do. What you got to do next is just break it down into specific projects and specific tasks and add it to your calendar and start doing it. If you need more about keeping track of all those tasks, check out episode 287 and 288 to learn more about how I keep track of stuff and how you could keep track of stuff. The 4th step is a follow through. I know, this is the hardest part, right? Is actually doing what we've planned to do. This involves having a time to work, having clear boundaries around it so that you get stuff done, and then actually focusing on what you have to focus on during your boundary time. So for a lot of us, this also requires some outside accountability. We might have the time, we might have the boundaries, we might have the focus is hard because we need some outside accountability. We need somebody to say, hey, you were going to do this, right? Or did you get that done? And needing outside accountability is not a bad thing. It doesn't mean you don't have any discipline. It just means you operate best when someone else is relying on you. That's totally okay. The thing is, recognize that and then get what you need. If you have a hard time following through, you are not alone. I recently asked our Facebook group about this, and over 90% said, I'm great at making plans, I'm horrible at following through, or I don't make plans and I don't follow through. Like, following through is the part that's hard. So you can get help for following through and learn my methodology of how I get makers and artists who were bad at following through to actually reach their goals and do their plans. You can find all of that when you download the free resources at tarswiger.com/2020goals. When you sign up for that, you'll get all the resources about goals and following through, and you'll get an invite to the masterclass when it's available next time. So how about you? What is your goal? What is your specific or measurable goal or feeling you want in 2020? I would love to hear about it. I'm going to share with you my goals and my planning in next week's podcast episode, but come share yours with me over on the Facebook group. You can find us at facebook.com/groups/tarswiger, or just go to the show notes, scroll down however you're listening or watching this, you'll find a link for it there. Have a very enthusiastic day and a happy new year.